Hello, gentle marketers. Welcome to episode 39 of the Gentle Business Revolution podcast, the show where we talk about marketing your business by disrupting the current marketing paradigm and changing it to a gentler approach, one that's based on empathy and kindness. I'm Sarah Croce. I'm the host here, and you know that you're in the right place if you are a heart-centered entrepreneur or change maker who is looking for a better way to market your business, or you are an entrepreneur who is simply tired and sick of the traditional marketing model and are ready for a paradigm shift. And you also might be a marketing impact pioneer, so someone who's working for an organization, small or large, who does business for good. So maybe you have already a B Corp label, or you're just otherwise a part of the good guys, those who believe in profit and purpose. Real quick, before we begin, if you're new to this show, yay, thank you so much for being here. A big welcome. I'm so happy you're here. This podcast is structured around the 7 P's of the gentle marketing mandala. So I always try to find conversations that fit into one of the P's, and those are passion, personal power, people, pricing, promotion, and partnership. So seeing my 1-page gentle marketing plan with the 7 email prompts might help you understand a bit better what we're talking about here on this show. And yes, it's a prompt to opt in and give me your email. You know how this spiel works. You can get your 1-page marketing plan at sarahsanacroce.com/1page, the number 1 page. So today's solo episode falls under the P of pricing. And sometimes I also refer to it as profit because both of them have to do with money. So in this episode, I wanted to share a recent experience I had around pricing and talking about money with a potential customer. So a previous podcast guest referred me to a friend of his. And as it often happens with good referrals, we immediately connected because we both had similar values and worldviews. So yay, I could already see myself working with this client. So on the Zoom call, I invited him to share about his needs and expectations. Like I always do, I let the client or the potential client talk first. And so he told me what he was looking for, and he needed help with his LinkedIn profile. He had recently transitioned into a new business and hadn't updated his profile in a long time because in the previous business, he didn't really need it. So, that is something that I knew that I can help him with. So I gave him some encouragement and a few tips on how to improve what he already had. And we talked about 20 minutes or so. And then he asked me about my offers. So I mentioned 2 options. I have a do-it-for-you version. So that's where I create the content for the client. I write the whole LinkedIn profile from A to Z. And that's my high-level offer. And it's quite an investment. I actually admit that I kept raising the price because I really think it has that value, and B, it takes me a lot of time to write those profiles the way I do them. It really is more than just a profile. It's a personal brand, and it takes me anywhere between 8 and 12 hours if I write it. And I have, 10 years of experience and lots of experience writing these profiles. So yeah, I just realized that if I do everything for the client, I wanted to be paid fair money for that. And so I kept raising the price because I felt like I was overwhelmed with the demand, and then kind of having to put in a lot of hours for something that I kind of felt frustrated with after a bit because I just didn't feel like my time was valued. So that's my high-end offer. But then I also told them that I have another option where the client gets access to my LinkedIn profile tutorial that helps them write their profile on their own. And once they have a draft, we get an hour together to review it. And I also address any other LinkedIn questions that they might have. And they really walk away with a really good, solid LinkedIn profile. But the work is on their side. So it takes work that they need to be ready to invest themselves. And many clients actually tell me they prefer that option. And I also often recommend it for entrepreneurs because it requires some deep thinking about who you are, who you serve, what you offer, etc. So oftentimes they do that reflection, and my videos help them reflect on these things, and then they apply some of what they learned for their LinkedIn profile also for their about page or their services page. So it's time well worth investing. My rate for this package is $500. So yeah, if you think about it, you get 1 hour and it's $500. So it's not cheap. And I just want to share a bit how I came up with this rate and why I charge that rate. Again, this is not, if you've been here, I have listened to previous episodes. This is not, kind of this bragging thing where I say, I deserve this rate and all of that. No, I really just want to explain how I came to be charging that amount. And then also in this later, talk about having these conversations with clients. So that's where I'm coming from. So the reason I charge this rate is that I really truly stand behind the value that the clients get. They get a very unique LinkedIn profile that represents their brand. And my rate also reflects my experience. I've been doing this for a long time. Of course, this wasn't always my price when I first started out. I think I was doing profile reviews, not one-on-one, but like video reviews. I think I started at $97. So clearly, this is a journey. So my rate also reflects my creative thinking. I really take a holistic approach to someone's LinkedIn profile. It's not just a profile for me. It's a personal brand. Clients who work with me also get coaching on services, niching, other marketing advice. We always also look at their website because LinkedIn is just one part of their brand. And I know that, and maybe compared to other LinkedIn experts, I have, an in-depth experience coming from marketing in general. So that's another reason. And then I also really want to give freely without feeling that I don't get paid fairly. So besides the 1 hour the client gets with me, I always invite them to share their profile again once they made the updates after and I reviewed it. And then I'll look at the profile again and make a small short video and add some additional thoughts. And of course, I'm also available to them if they have any follow-up questions. And I always did that because I'm very much a believer of giving. But when I did that with lower rates, I kind of felt like they're taking advantage of me. And then I felt like I have to defend myself, that I need to charge for this extra time. So I just really didn't want to deal with that anymore. And I wanted to say, yes, you can, ask me as many questions and I don't feel bad if we go over the 1 hour. So, that just really feels good now. So my offer then also comes with non-physical benefits. What I mean by that is, for example, increased confidence, because when you have a LinkedIn profile, actually, let me say it this way. I'm an introvert, right? So I'm not so good at tooting my own horn, just kind of talking about rates and how good I am and all of that. That makes me really uncomfortable. But I'm really good at putting other people in the spotlight. And so often when I work with clients and their LinkedIn profile is kind of like, all these, it's just kind of like average. And then when I work with people, they tell me, oh, I also got this award, but I didn't want to put it on. And so what my job is really put people into the spotlight and sell them. So, one of those side benefits is also increased confidence, because they can then really own their expertise. And I tell them, no, you have to say that, and you don't have to keep bragging about it, but it's there on your LinkedIn profile. And I often refer to that also as your sales page. So, that's kind of one of my superpowers as well, is put other people in the spotlight. And then my rate also includes all kind of other admin costs, such as the Kajabi membership, where the tutorial is hosted, any admin time for my accountant, all these little fees for my shopping cart, et cetera, et cetera. So if you do the math, also time it takes to write the invoice. So if you do the math, there's all these little costs that add up. And, if you're really underselling yourself and you have an hourly rate or whatever, a rate that is just too low, then you're really not making a profit. So I didn't tell the client all of that. I just mentioned my second package, which is the one I just told you about, the $500, that gets them access to the tutorial, and then the time with me. I also then mentioned my third option, which is just the tutorial, and that's $197 if people just want to do it themselves. So I give them options, and that really empowers the client to choose and pick what feels good to them. And so when I mentioned the price for the middle package, he answered that it was kind of more than he was planning to spend. And he said he didn't want to challenge me on the price, but asked if we could have a conversation about it. And yeah, I said, of course, I love that. I mean, we're adults and we need to be able to talk about money. So he asked if he could just pay me for 1 hour of my time. And that happens quite frequently. And yes, a few years ago, I would still offer that, but I no longer do, because I really find that it's not a sustainable way of doing business, because as I mentioned before, it's never just an hour. The email exchanges before and after, writing the invoice, sending a recording, et cetera, et cetera. So for every hour, there's at least 30 minutes of admin involved. So I told him, no, unfortunately, I don't offer hourly. I then offered that he can think about it and let me know what would be a fair price to him. And I really meant that. I'm all for packages. It makes things simpler for me. It's all on the website. People can see that, it's there, and that's the official offer. But then, and maybe some people don't agree with that, but I'm also for making exceptions when my gut tells me to. So I don't want to put someone into a difficult financial situation. So I believe that if people can afford my full rate, then I feel like I deserve that full rate. But, sometimes it can't be done. And so that's why I offered in this case to come up with a price that seemed fair to him. And we left it at that he would think about it and get back to me. And yes, he ended up buying the package a few days later at the full price. And then after our collaboration, he told me that he was delighted and really happy with the LinkedIn profile. So this is like a long intro to what I was really wanting to talk about is that when it comes to having pricing conversations which obviously means we need to talk about money, I've learned that it's best to really kind of put away your ego, leave it out of the game, and don't take it personally. Don't get annoyed if someone challenges you on your price, because it really has nothing to do with you. It just means that maybe it's up to you to show empathy for the person's situation, because money is something that is just not equal for everybody. I mean, everybody has a different relationship towards money, but also has different amounts of money that they have available. So I think it's just, I've learned that it's best to leave the ego out of the way. And I've learned the hard way. I mean, this wasn't an easy thing for me to learn, because I've shared before that I went through this underselling kind of time where I always try to give the lowest rate possible, just because that's kind of how I've been raised. You have to be humble and so on. But then that left me being very frustrated and almost angry and not loving what I do anymore. So again, if you can get to that place where you just say, this is not about me, this is not about how people feel about my value. Let's just be adults and have a conversation around money. I also like this concept of non-grasping. So if your client feels that you're really desperate to make the sale, it puts them in an uncomfortable position, and there's a good chance that they'll probably not feel like buying. So really don't get attached to the outcome. Have the conversation, and if it feels good to the potential client, then it's meant to be. And if it's not meant to be, then there's other solutions. I'm also sometimes even open to, say, look, this is my price, but I'd be happy to introduce you to someone else who is kind of newer in the business, and they'd be happy to work with you. So kind of apply this non-grasping, and sometimes it works, and then other times you just really wish you could have that client, and then it's a bit more difficult. Be open and flexible if your gut tells you so, but don't feel like you have to. I think that also has to do with boundaries. So if it feels good to me, I will say, look, I'm flexible. Tell me what feels good to you. But if I don't have this good vibe, then I don't feel like I have to. These are my prices. This is my business. And, if you don't like it, please look somewhere else. But in other cases where I can just tell this is my ideal client, I want this to work, I want this to work for him, then, there are no rules. There's only your rules. Again, apply boundaries when needed. So, for me, the boundary about not doing hourly is very, very clear. I also don't do exchanges. I used to do that in the beginning as well. And I have this love-hate relationship with it. So the idea is to say, I offer you my LinkedIn profile review, and you offer me one of your services in return. I've unfortunately only ever had bad experiences with that. So it's probably just me. I don't know. I would love to hear that this works. For me, it just never did. And so I'd rather pay the person and they pay me. And then, we still have this money being exchanged. I think in a way it's important to say there's a money exchange, because then we know that this is business and what we're doing is valuable and it's worth paying for. And then the last thing I would say is understand that everyone has insecurities around money. So it's so normal to feel awkward talking about money, feel awkward kind of, saying that what you stand for and this is my hourly rate. That's awkward to me when I can tell that the other person maybe can't afford it. And for the other person, it's probably awkward to say, well, I can't afford that. So just, bring a lot of empathy to that conversation and make it as human as possible and just say, look, we know that, can we just talk about this openly? This is how I feel. So I really also believe giving your client options so that they feel empowered to make a choice. So I always like to give at least 2 different options for different budgets, sometimes 3 if you have it. And yes, of course, you'll have some conversations that don't lead to a sale because none of the options work for your client, and that's okay too. What matters is that you are able to hold the space for this conversation. Again, you are the business owner, so it is your responsibility to be able to show up and talk about money and, tell them what your price is, and then kind of also be open to have a conversation around it, which is not easy, and I know that. So that's what I wanted to share with you in this episode about having kind of difficult conversations around money with, regarding to pricing and your packages and your services. So I hope some of it has been helpful. Again, there's things in there that maybe you don't agree, and that's fine. You need to find what works for you and what you feel comfortable with. So these are also some kind of conversations that we have in the Gentle Business Circle. So if you're interested in having these kind of really honest, transparent conversations, check out if the Gentle Business Circle would be for you. It's basically a monthly call where we get together with fellow gentle marketers. And if you can't make it live, you can also submit your questions in advance. But yeah, we discuss anything that comes up for you, be it around pricing, be it about marketing, be it about life. We just hold the space for these conversations that help us evolve in our businesses and create sustainable businesses. I'm trying to get this off the ground starting in June, and you can find all the details at sarahsandacroce.com/circle. So again, it's a monthly call, and all the details are on that page. I hope you'll join me on this journey to a kinder marketing paradigm. Please invite your friends if you feel like sharing it with them. And you can also share the Gentle Business Manifesto with them. Both can be found at thegentlebusinessrevolution.com. Let's be the change we want to see in the world. Talk to you soon.